Hey guys, welcome back. The habitat season is for the most part behind us, and the 2025 hunting season is right around the corner. Hopefully you're able to get done most of the projects that you want to get accomplished on your property. Now that we're into September, there are always a few last minute things that we want to get done, and that's actually what I want to talk to you guys about in this video. Is even though we're in September, if for some reason you were not able to get in a food plot on your property, this is a way that you can get a last minute food plot put in before the hunting season. Even though we're pushing into the middle of September here in Michigan, it's still not too late to put in a food plot on your hunting property. While most years we do want to have our food plots planted by now, there are reasons as to why you don't have one in yet. A common one is you just got access to a new piece of property, whether that's permission property or maybe you just closed on a new property and you haven't had access to it to be able to put in a new food plot. Another common one, guys, and I run into this sometimes, is depending on the year, you might not have had time to do it, or maybe the weather hasn't been cooperating with you, so you just haven't had a chance to put in your fall food plots yet. While it's not ideal to be planting in the middle of September, it's still possible, and that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. I mentioned this just a second ago, but I did want to touch on it one more time, and this is not the ideal time to be planting your fall food plots. Most years here in Michigan, we want to get those in the ground in early August. So in late July, start looking at the weather forecast and see when is that next set of storms going to start moving through, and that's when you generally want to start planting your food plots. Time it with that first big rain event in early August. But as I mentioned, that's not always going to be the case. There are going to be years where time gets away from you, or maybe you just got access to a new piece of property and you have to put in a last minute food plot. And the first step to putting in this last minute food plot is the location. And this location has to be receiving a lot of sunlight. Remember, this is a last minute food plot, and time most likely got away from you this year. So if you didn't have time to prep the food plot or plant the food plot in early August, I'm guessing that you don't have a lot of time to be taking down a lot of big trees to open up the area for sunlight. So make sure that the area that you're planting already is receiving a lot of sunlight. Without sunlight, the food plot will not grow. So this is either going to be a clearing in the timber, or maybe this is going to be an existing field that's just dominated by weeds. Regardless, whatever the area is, it needs to be receiving sunlight. The second step to planting our last minute food plot is weed control. We want to reduce the competition so that whatever we're planting within this food plot has a chance to grow and does not have to compete with the existing vegetation in the area. If we just seed into the existing vegetation, whatever we plant will likely germinate, but it'll get smothered by all the weeds in there. So we have to address the weeds or kill off the weeds. Because we're into September, we're well into the growing season, we're likely going to be having to kill off more mature weeds, larger vegetation. So I am hitting the entire area with 2 quarts per acre of glyphosate. And if you are unsure of what to use, just look at the back of the label for the recommended rate per acre. The glyphosate, which is just generic Roundup, should kill everything in the area. So once you put your seeds down, there'll be much less competition, giving your food plot the best chance of success. Now, one very important thing about spraying these last minute food plots, we are only spraying this area with glyphosate. If I'm putting in a new food plot and I'm spraying the food plot in late May and June, I'm hitting the area with glyphosate and 2,4-D. But 2,4-D has a residual effect. It kind of stays in the soil for a few weeks. And because this is a last minute food plot, we don't have 2 weeks to wait. So we want to make sure that we're only hitting the food plot with glyphosate, because with glyphosate, once it dries on the plants, the plant is dead and there is no residual effect. So just glyphosate, no 2,4-D. The third step to planting your last minute food plot is to seed the area. As I just mentioned, once that glyphosate dries, those plants are essentially dead and there is no residual effect. So once that chemical dries, you are good to seed the plot. And for me, the timing works out to be most years, as soon as I put that sprayer away, by the time I get back with the seeds in the spreader, the plants are dry and I can seed the plot. and we are seeding directly into this standing vegetation. As we walk through with our spreader, those seeds are going to fall and work their way to the ground, and we just sprayed the whole area with glyphosate, so these plants, they're dead over the next couple weeks. They're going to brown and lay down, creating a protective mulch layer. This is very similar for you guys that do no-till food plotting with either planting into cereal rye and then crimping that over, or planting into buckwheat. It's a very similar process, except we're just using weeds. That mulch layer from those dying weeds is going to provide us with a few benefits. The first is it's going to help us retain moisture. As those weeds die and they fall over, that's going to shield the soil from the sun. So it's not going to be able to dry out as fast. Again, it's going to help us retain moisture. And the last couple years, we haven't gotten a whole lot of rain in the early fall when we're trying to plant our food plots. And so this is really going to help us retain that moisture. The second benefit of that mulch layer is it's going to help protect those seeds from wildlife. Remember, we are just broadcasting our seeds into standing vegetation. And for those of you guys that have ever, put down cereal rye or any seed on top of the soil, birds love to get at that, especially those turkeys. As soon as we put our seeds down, a lot of times the next picture you get in your trail camera is a bunch of turkeys in there picking at all that new seed. So this mulch layer is really going to help protect our seeds from wildlife. Again, this is a very similar process to a lot of the no-till methods for planting food plots, whether that's planting into standing cereal rye or planting into standing buckwheat. We are planting into standing weeds and using the weeds as a mulch layer. The fourth step to planting your last minute food plot, it is an optional one, but it is highly recommended. And that's if you have access to an ATV and a drag or a cultipacker to drive over the whole area with that drag or the cultipacker. This is going to do a couple things for you. The first thing it's going to do is it's going to shake any of those seeds that got caught up in that vegetation onto the ground. So as you're walking through, again, it's heavy vegetation. Some of those seeds are going to get stuck in those weeds, and as you drive over that area with that cultipacker or that drag, that's going to shake those seeds onto the ground. So you get more seeds on the soil. The second thing that's going to do is it's going to smash or crimp down some of those weeds. And because we just sprayed the whole area with glyphosate, once you smash those weeds down, they're not coming back up. Those weeds are dead, and you basically put those weeds on the ground. You created that mulch layer earlier in the process. Even though this is an optional step, your food plot, it's going to grow. Most of those food plot seeds are going to find their way to the ground on their own. They're going to germinate. We hit the whole area with glyphosate. Those weeds are going to die. They're going to fall over, creating that protective mulch layer. It is highly recommended to drive over the area with either a drag or a cultipacker just to try to get better seed to soil contact and knock some of those weeds down to create that protective mulch layer earlier in the process. And the fifth and final step for planting your last minute food plot is to try to time your planting with some sort of a rain event. Just like planting any food plot, planting a last minute food plot is no different. We really want to try to time our seeding with some sort of a rain event to give us the best chance at germination. And with these last minute food plots, if you have to wait a couple days to time seeding with a rain event, I would do it. You've already waited this long, you're already planting late. It's okay to plant a few days later if you can time that seeding with a rain event. As far as what we're planting in our last minute food plots, because we are seeding so late in the season, here in Michigan, we are a little bit more limited as to what we can put down, so late in the season for these last minute food plots. I personally like to put down crimson clover, medium red clover, and cereal rye. Those are my three go-to seeds for these last minute food plots. Deer love each one of those. They germinate fairly quickly, they grow fairly quickly, and I understand that these are not glamour food plot crops, but remember, we are putting in a last minute food plot. This is not going to be a pretty food plot. It's not going to be on the cover of a magazine, but with crimson clover, medium red clover, cereal rye, these seeds will germinate, they'll grow, they'll pull deer in, and they will allow you to put in a last minute food plot before the hunting season. So just to recap the 5 steps for putting in a last minute food plot, the first step is find a location that's receiving a lot of sunlight. The second step is to spray the entire area with glyphosate. Remember, just glyphosate, not 2,4-D. Once the glyphosate is dry, you don't have to wait. You can seed immediately into that standing vegetation. It's essentially dead once that glyphosate is dry. The fourth step, it's optional but highly recommended to drive over the area with a drag or some sort of a cultipacker to get those seeds knocked down to the ground and to smash the weeds down to create that protective mulch layer a little bit earlier in the process. And the fifth step is try to time seeding with some sort of a rain event to get that germination started right away. But just because we're into September now and we have passed that ideal planting window for putting in our fall plots, that does not mean that you can't put in a good food plot before the hunting season. If you guys do have any questions on this process, feel free to drop those in the comment section below, and we will see you guys in the next video.